What's up, you guys? Michael Elefante here. One of the most common questions I get asked from people, or maybe more so comments, is I can't invest in my local market. It's not a popular tourist area. You know, how do I invest out of state, or how do I invest from afar, and what makes a good location or a good property to select for a short-term rental that you end up listing on Airbnb? After all, you are going to be investing your hard-earned money, so it is very, very important and honestly critical to pick the right location and to be very precise about the type of property and what your overall vision is for the property. Now, there are many things to take into consideration, so we're gonna hit on all of those today, and honestly, it's critical that you guys have your criteria marked down before you even begin the hunt or the search for a property itself. And then we're also going to touch on, once you find a location, what makes the right property, and then what things that you guys should strive for in your vision for creating a property that will end up making you a lot of money and a very high return on your investment. Now, in this video, we won't be focusing as much around the actual dollars invested out of pocket and the finances concerned with properties and listing on Airbnb, but we will be focusing on what makes a property stand out, and again, the location, proximity, things like that, that can ultimately maximize your cash flow potential. Now, in order to maximize my potential in growing this channel organically on YouTube, honestly, I genuinely appreciate you guys taking the time to watch it. If you haven't subscribed yet and find value from this content, if you don't mind just tapping the subscribe button below. And if you get to the end of the video, or even right now if you want, just tap the little like button below and drop your comments, guys. It honestly helps with the good old YouTube algorithm and helps promote this content to other people like yourself who may also find value from it. So that's the reason that I ask. I genuinely appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and dive right into today's topic. So here are the top 8 things that I either use to evaluate finding the perfect place and property to rent out on Airbnb. Number 1 is location. Now, location is really important because you really just need to be in a location that honestly has a decent tourism number, and you could find the tourism numbers just by searching on Google, or even sometimes government websites and forums and things like that. But high tourism is important because the more people that you can market your property to, or properties to, the better chance that you have of getting booked, and the more bookings you get, the more dollars you make and the higher your cash flow is. And short-term rentals are all about the average nightly rate you can charge and the occupancy rate, or in other words, how many nights per year is your property booked? Because when you multiply those two numbers together, we get our projected revenue. And once we take the revenue minus all our expenses, that is our cash flow, or our net income. And don't just look at past numbers necessarily for tourism, but also look at the data year-over-year growth in tourism numbers, because if a place is decreasing the amount of people that are visiting every year, probably want to avoid that place, right? Because we're looking to buy and hold these investments for a long time and reap the benefits long term. So it's important to see a place is growing in tourism numbers. Again, you look at places like Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee, or any other regional vacation destination. Look at those places, find the tourism numbers. If they're increasing, I think it's a good spot. Now, right now in particular, regional vacation destinations are exploding. And why, you might ask? This is because COVID-19 is still lingering, and people still want to get out of their houses more now than ever. And they're looking for regional spots that they can drive and take their family to and just kind of be secluded, or maybe get a small group of friends and gather, or maybe couples just need a cabin to get away to somewhere. So right now we are heavily focused on mountains or regional spots like lakes, maybe beaches. You guys know better than I do in your local, state or county or whatever, where do people flock to when they want to just get out of the city for a long weekend? Those places may be the hidden gems to find an Airbnb. So I also look at national parks. What are the most visited national parks? That's why we invested in a mountain house in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. The Smoky Mountain National Park is the most visited United States national park. So look for high foot traffic, and that's honestly recession proof, that people will always visit national parks in those regional spots. Now, once we narrow down a location, we want to figure out the proximity, right? And what do I mean by proximity? I mean proximity to the reason they're actually visiting that particular location. So if you're in a national park, are you in close proximity to the park entrance, to hiking, to whatever the water is, right? It could be rivers, lakes, oceans, things to do. If people are looking to go out and eat and enjoy, restaurants locally, or go drink at bars, listen to live music if you're in a city, what are people visiting town for? And try to be as close in proximity as you can to those places. And it doesn't mean be walking distance, although that is great. You can inherently charge more. And honestly, people look at location as a cost benefit, right? They're willing to pay more to live close to, to rent closer to the action, because they do not have to pay for a rental car or as many Ubers to get around town, right? So think proximity. What are people visiting that location for? And the closer you can get to the action, typically, you're going to have a greater activity. And honestly, more eyes are going to be on the property online, because they're going to look at a map on Airbnb or VRBO, and they're going to sort by properties. And then if they can't find a place, they're going to start to expand and go further out and further out. So again, proximity is a big one. Number 3 is seasonality. And I try to avoid places that heavily rely on just 1 or 2 seasons. So think places like northern lakes or northern beaches that really get high tourism traffic during maybe 3 to 4 months during the summertime, and then are very, very quiet during the winter time. Now, while you still can make a ton of money by having a place that is very seasonal, because you can make 80% of your revenue for the year in maybe those 3 or 4 months, I try to find a place that is less seasonal, that is booked, at least 8 to 10 months out of the year, if not has high foot traffic through all 12 months. So for me, that's looking at places like Nashville. Right now, it's still a little bit slow due to lack of tourism with COVID, but people are never going to stop getting married, and bachelorette and bachelor parties come to Nashville, and it is exploding. People come here for birthday parties. There's concerts all year round. We also like the mountains because, again, you can go hiking in the summer. You can go mountain biking in the fall. People like to see the leaves change. In the winter, you can go skiing and things like that. And in the spring, you have spring break, and then you rinse and repeat. So a lot of family vacations year round. So it's not going to be quite as seasonal as maybe something up north where it gets a little cold based around the water. You can go to beach locations or lakes in the south, because a lot of people, even during the winter months, will actually migrate down to Florida maybe for a long beach weekend just to escape the cold and the snow for a little bit. So you guys are going to know, again, whatever location you're interested in investing in, just think about the seasonality of that particular area, and that should help you determine if it's worth investing in. Now, number 4 is probably one of the most important criteria for any Airbnb investment, and that is how many people can you accommodate. So too many people focus in their search on how many bedrooms does it have or how many bathrooms does it have. I focus more on square footage of the place, how many total rooms does it have, and how big are those rooms, and how many people can we accommodate. So another thing you have to check is if it's in a city, you need to check if there's a city permit, and within that permit, are there restrictions on how many people you can accommodate based on those bedrooms. In Nashville, there's restrictions on how many people you can have, and then Austin, Texas, I'm sure all the major cities have these types of restrictions, but then again, those regional spots probably don't have those type of restrictions. So if you can get a sizable place, even if it's a 2-bedroom, you might be able to sleep up to 10 people. You don't want to cram too many people in a space, but you want to sleep as many people as you comfortably can, because again, people are going to reason with themselves on the price per night for a place if they can accommodate more people. They're looking for price per person, not necessarily price per night at that point. On a recent video I posted on TikTok, I get a lot of pushback on, I can't believe you're charging $624 a night on average for the mountain house out there, but they don't know that that place actually accommodates 16 guests very comfortably. So you can have a big family gathering or multiple, parts of an extended family meet together for a special occasion. And when you break that price down per person, it actually doesn't come out to that much. And honestly, if we're getting booked out solid, which we are, maybe we're not even charging enough, right? So once you guys get set up, you can figure out about how much you can charge. And if you're not booking out enough, you can reduce the price. If you're getting booked out too much, try creeping up the price a little bit. So the number of people that we look to accommodate helps us quickly eliminate properties when we're actually sifting through them on the MLS or on Zillow or on Realtor.com, something like that. If there's a 2-bedroom, but it's tiny and you can only accommodate 4 people max, I'm probably going to avoid that place because I'd rather have, again, a 2, 3, or 4 bedroom place that can accommodate 8 to 16 people. Again, think about price per person, not necessarily price per night. All right, number 5 is something I call X Factor, and this is something my wife and all my friends make fun of me for. They'll be like, oh, Mike, the X Factor. But by X Factor, I just mean something that makes your property unique. Because for me, I like to cater toward people's emotions, and booking a short-term vacation rental is an emotional decision. Some guests, this is their once-a-year family getaway vacation. For other people, it's a bachelorette party. For other people, it's a birthday gathering. It's typically an emotional decision. So in people's minds, when they're scrolling through Airbnb, it's no different than scrolling through Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. Unless something catches your eye in that one photo, they're probably not going to click, right? It's all about click rate, just on Airbnb as it is any other social media platform. So you have the one photo in the description to get a click, and then you get to the Airbnb splash page, which has, I think, 5 or 6 photos, and your description of the property itself, and kind of all the details people need to know. But you get those 5 photos in order to get them to click and see all 30 to 75 photos, however many you guys have online. Again, it's all about click rate. And once you get them to that point, they're already seeing themselves in the property. The X factor I talk about is, think of unique outdoor spaces, a unique game room, living room. Think about putting murals on the wall that are interactive. You guys can look on Airbnb and scroll through properties in whatever location you want. I'll give you an example. Search Gatlinburg, Tennessee on Airbnb right now or after this video. And if you start to scroll, there's thousands of properties and they all start to blend together. You see a lot of wood, kind of looks like grandma's cabin, and you just keep scrolling and scrolling, and you're gonna get to a couple that really stand out and catch your attention. And those places are gonna be booked out more. If they're booked out more, they're gonna have more reviews. The more reviews they get, the higher you rank on Airbnb search. And once you have reviews and you're ranking higher, you can ultimately charge more per night, and people are going to perceive a higher price per night with value. I know it sounds backwards, but there are a lot of people out there who do that, and you guys can ultimately charge more and make more money by having some sort of X factor. And just as a side note to that, who are you guys catering toward? You have to figure out who you're catering toward. Are you trying to cater toward a business traveler? Are you catering toward a mother booking a family vacation for her family, or maybe an extended family? Are you catering towards somebody who's looking, younger groups coming in for a bachelorette party or a birthday celebration or a concert, something like that? You have to kind of decorate your place to cater toward the group you're going for, because ultimately you want them to stay in your place, post on Instagram, and get exposure so other people ask them, hey, where'd you stay? And then they're ultimately going to reach out when they plan to visit said destination and hopefully book your place as well. So don't underestimate the power of the emotional appeal that you have on folks that are booking your place, and honestly the psychology that goes behind it. It is really important and goes a long way, I promise. Number 6, use data and resources that are at your disposal. You guys can look on Airbnb for starters and just see if there's other rentals in the area. You can see if a market's saturated or maybe not saturated. Are there photos really bad? You can go on there and see how many reviews places have, how often they're booked out. This is just an easy starting point to see, 1, what your competition is, and 2, how hot the market is, right? I mean, typically, markets that are more saturated probably have good tourism, and you can see if they're being booked out in advance. So it should give you guys a better understanding of the booking rate, occupancy, things like that. Also use sites like Airdna. You can use some of their information for free, but it's probably worth signing up for and paying for their monthly subscription, at least for 1 month, maybe 2 months. It's kind of expensive, but it's gonna be worth it, because if it helps you guys find the right place, that could make you thousands of dollars in cash flow a month. Paying $100 or $200 for a month or 2 for Airdna is so worth it in my opinion. Also, you can work with a local realtor, which honestly you're probably going to end up working with anyway, which I recommend. So we typically reach out to local real estate agents who meet a couple criteria for us. Number 1 is I prefer them to be somewhat experienced. Number 2, I hope that they actually invest in real estate themselves, so they understand from an investment perspective, based on our criteria that we give them, that they are able to funnel properties that meet our criteria, and they also know are in a good rental location. In addition to that, they're going to have access to the MLS, and they may even have access to and knowledge around off-market properties that are being sold. So off-market properties just means they have not been published on the MLS, or not on Zillow, on on Realtor.com, on any other housing website. So you guys can rely on them for kind of insider information, if you will, and they should be able to help funnel properties to you that ultimately should be a good fit based on the criteria, again, that you provide them. Now, number 7 is kind of a segue from number 6, and this is to network with people. This can be with lenders, with real estate agents. You can contact cleaners in the area, because cleaners actually are going to know what properties are better than others, because the more they're at a specific property, that typically means that it's being booked more, right? They have to do more cleanings in between every single guest. You can work with lenders. You're gonna have to work with lenders anyway if you're financing the property. So working with a local lender, honestly, you might find that some of those lenders are investors themselves. So working with them, they can actually help you navigate things outside of finding a place as well. Definitely get on BiggerPockets, get on Facebook, Instagram, whatever social media you can, find these groups and reach out to other investors, send them connection requests. I think you're going to be surprised in the responses that you get and the information that they're willing to share with you. Lastly, we have number 8, which is local laws and regulations. And this is really, really important. Honestly, once you select a location, you should immediately look up the laws and the regulations in that area, because that might help you eliminate it altogether. Cities like New York, San Francisco, and now even cities like Nashville and Austin and Dallas, and really any major metro area now have laws around short-term rentals. So again, I mentioned the permit process. You need to look up and see if they even allow short-term rentals in the first place. Oftentimes, they will not only have occupancy limits, but you're also going to have a much stricter process in obtaining a permit. So there's things often known as owner-occupied and non-owner occupied. For the owner-occupied, you're going to have to live on premises or probably in the house. So think duplex and you rent out the other half of the house on Airbnb, or your own house, a single family house, and you rent out the other rooms on Airbnb. Non-owner occupied, which is where we focus, and I'm sure most of you guys are going to want to focus, is not living on premises, and you need a special permit, which typically has to be zoned accordingly. So you need to probably look on their zoning department. You can even just call into the zoning department and talk with somebody. You can let them know the address, and they should be able to let you know pretty quickly if that property is eligible for a non-owner occupied permit. You can also speak with your real estate agent. They should have a very good understanding in the local market, if they work with a lot of investors, on what areas allow short-term rentals and which ones to avoid. Also, how much is the permit? It could be $100 a year. It could be several $100s a year. That's something to take into consideration, because if it's some absurd number and you're limited to the occupancy and the zoning restrictions, it may just be not worth the headache. But all in all, it's something that you guys need to evaluate for sure. So those are the top 8 criteria or items that we always go down the list and make sure it fits our criteria before ever even making an offer on a house in the first place. It is critical that you guys are very specific and define your criteria up front, because it will save you tons of time and quickly help you eliminate certain locations or certain properties based on those 8 things that we just went through. So hopefully you guys found some value in it. If you have any additional questions at all, or you want my opinion on a particular place, I'll try to answer them, to the best of my ability. So drop your comments below, and I'll do my best to respond. And if you guys found value in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate you guys watching, and hope to catch you again soon.